Hello. I'm going to speak to you about architecture and happiness. So the first question to ask is, what is happiness? What makes us happy? What's the definition of happiness? Happiness, according to our dictionaries, is a state of well-being and contentment. It's a pleasurable or satisfying experience. Happiness is not something you experience, it's something you remember, said Oscar Levant. And happiness is not a reward, it's a consequence. So what do we think makes us happy? Is it love? Or maybe it's freedom? Possibly more money? Or a nicer car? Maybe it's a lavish home somewhere, or that dream job that you've always wanted to have. Or maybe it's an exotic holiday. For some, it's family. For others, it's chocolate. Relative to GDP, Bulgaria is the unhappiest country in the world. That's where Bulgaria is. This is a study that was done by the New York Times, or published in the New York Times and in The Economist. It's by Wharton. You can see where Bulgaria is. Basically, Iran is happier than us. Russia is happier than us. Kosovo is happier than us. Greece, which is about to fall apart, is happier than us. Colombia is happier than us. And Egypt is happier than us. So we've got a problem. Why do we think that is? I think it's complicated. It's a mixture of mistrust, low wages, corruption, unemployment. Some people say that it's in our nature. Some people say that Bulgarians are just unhappy. You go out on the street and people are kind of, not smiling. I think part of it is the environment that we live in. The Western syndrome, where life is always better somewhere else. A lot of people think that, they'll go to Spain or the UK and gold bags kind of grow on trees there, and it's all great. And then many people aren't optimistic. I think that's really important. They don't believe that things will ever be better, which makes them unhappy. So what are our politicians doing about it? Is this our savior? Our politicians focus on GDP. That's the kind of metric of success. They focus on, how we're doing this year, how the EU is doing, what the kind of outlook is for the next. The truth is, though, that it doesn't make us happier. It's too slow. We don't see when our GDP increases by 3.6% last year, or whatever it is. We don't really feel it. Paul Hawken said, "We're stealing the future, selling it in the present, and calling it GDP." And then Robert Kennedy said, "Our gross national product measures everything except that which makes life worthwhile." For Bulgaria to reach European levels, it'll take another 20, 30 years, hopefully. And that's decades away. It's really difficult to imagine, that time when the standard of living here will be the same as that in Paris or London or wherever it is. But happiness is a commons to which everyone should have equal access, whether we're in Bulgaria or in the UK or wherever it is. We should be measuring our gross national happiness, not product. We should be voting for politicians who will work to increase that. And what can we do now? How can we be happy today? What should we do to increase our quality of life? It's our environment. It's the places where we work, where we live, where we play. It's our city around us. If we go back to this graph, you can see where Bulgaria is again. It's been proven that when somebody gets a raise as a salary, for example, once you reach a certain threshold, more money doesn't make you happier. It's a kind of temporary, happiness that fades. So it's not about money when you look at people, but when you kind of zoom out and look at it per country, you can see that in general, richer countries are happier and poorer countries are less happy. I think a big part of that is due to the environment, the places that the richer countries or more successful countries have been able to generate for their population or create for their population. In general, we're born hedonists. We like beautiful, smooth, melodic, sweet. All of that makes us happy. If you look at a newborn baby, babies like people that are smiling. They like to touch smooth things. They like sweetness. It's natural for us to love beauty and for beauty to make us happy. I think architecture plays a huge part in this. Architecture can speak to us. Architecture can provoke emotion. Architecture can spread a message, and architecture can generate happiness. I think architecture is our tool to make Bulgaria happy now, not in 30 years. How can we be happy if we live here? Or here? We need to build optimism, we need to build experiences, and we need to build beauty. I'll show you a couple of case studies. Bogota in Colombia. Enrique Peñalosa is the former mayor. He recently ended his term. He said that if we in the third world measure our success or failure in terms of society, in terms of income, we'd have to classify ourselves as losers until the end of time. So with our limited resources, we have to invent other ways to measure success. This might mean that all kids have access to sports facilities, libraries, parks, schools, nurseries. This is in Colombia. He organized a weekly event where major roads close and they're pedestrian and kind of bike-friendly. He also created an annual event where cars just aren't allowed and you have to use public transport or walk or bike or whatever to work. He created the Transmilenio. This is a bus rapid transit system. It's similar to the metro except that it's buses and it uses specialized lanes. The reason for this was that the metro system was just too expensive for the majority of the population, so this was something low cost and also effective. It kind of allowed them to get places, which is really important. He created a 17-kilometer long pedestrian street where people could, it's the world's longest, and people could just walk around. There's a lot of activity there. He did a lot more as well. He planted 100,000 trees. He bought real estate land around the capital in order to prevent real estate speculation, and a lot more. I mean, it's simple things which don't really require money. They require intelligence and caring. A case study closer to home, Albania. The former mayor of Albania, Edi Rama, is an artist. He said that, "I would say that I'm still an artist and I'm trying to use politics as an instrument for change." This is in Albania. This is Tirana. They have the same legacy that we do from communism with the kind of, ugly old buildings. They've painted them. They're fun. They're cheerful. This is, really, really simple. It doesn't cost much to do. In addition, what he did was run a lot of architectural competitions, and the architectural competitions that he ran were international competitions for people to, not the kind of mayor's brother or whatever it is to take part, but just normal companies who can compete based on ideas as opposed to anything else. So this is the Tirana Central Boulevard, master planned by Grimshaw. This is a competition that was won and, will hopefully be built. This is the Open Parliament of Albania. This is, again, a competition that was won, an international competition, so it didn't cost the government or local authorities anything. This is TID Tower. This is almost complete. It's almost finished in terms of construction. And then this is the Cultural Center in Tirana by Bjarke Ingels, again, a competition. This is all in Albania. I mean, can we not do this? What does it cost us? So what about us? What about Sofia? What about Bulgaria? Meet Ivan. Ivan is a normal person, the 99% of the population, and this is his life. Ivan wakes up in the morning, and this is the first thing that he sees when he looks out of his window. He then walks out with his kids, who he needs to take to the hospital and then to school, and this is where he lives. He walks past the garden where his children play every day, and this is what he sees. And then he walks to the metro system, to the tube station, and this is Bulgarian new amazing architecture. This is the future. And then he walks past this this bike lane, which he walks down into the metro station. This is one of Sofia's kind of proud projects. This is our future. This is it's the high-tech kind of optimistic future of Bulgaria. And then his train passes through this tunnel. He drops his children off for a checkup to the doctor in the hospital. It's actually been proven that if you're healing, if you're looking at nature, people heal much faster than if they look at concrete or brick. So architecture can actually have a tangible effect that is kind of proven. So can you heal quickly here? And then he drops his kids off to school. I mean, the earlier presentation about toilets, it's architecture. I mean, how can you be kind of positively minded if you study here? And then Ivan goes to work. This is where he works. How can he be innovative and creative? How can he increase Bulgaria's GDP with his amazing ideas? Is this the environment which will really kind of push him to do that? He goes out for his lunch break. There are cars parked on the pavements. There are crumbling buildings. It's just, dreary and gray. He goes to have some lunch in a kind of typical Bulgarian restaurant or cafe. And then he goes to pay his taxes. This is what he sees when he pays his taxes. It's, stress and gray, and everyone's kind of working against you. And then in the evening, he passes by the new museum in Sofia, which is supposed to promote our culture or, kind of remind us of our heritage. And then he goes home after a long day of work. And again, this is the last thing that he sees before he goes to sleep. So can Ivan really be happy here? I don't think so. What if this was his life? This is social housing in Ljubljana. This is housing that was designed, built by the government. This is housing for socially weaker families who can't afford to pay for rent. This is where they live. This isn't more expensive. It doesn't cost more to do this. It's just about caring, and it's just about, beautiful design, I guess. This is a proposal for Sofia. What if we had vertical gardens along our buildings? We have a serious issue with the crumbling kind of buildings. What can we do with that? What if in all of our roofs we had, amazing things happening, cafes and stuff like that? This is the Barcelona metro. Again, this doesn't cost more. It's just a matter of design. I mean, this, to me, speaks of a vision that is much more optimistic and idealistic. And then what if instead of passing through that crazy tunnel, it's just green and beautiful and people cared about what they were doing to the environment? This is a hospital in London. Do you think that you'd heal better here than the earlier one that I showed? I really think so. And then this is a school in Spain. What if our children could study here? Wouldn't they be much more positive and kind of open to accepting and developing themselves? And then this is actually my office here in Sofia. What if people could work here? We've tried to create a really much more innovative space where people can play and work. And then what if our cityscapes weren't full of rubbish and cars and so on? What if it was just pedestrian? What if, Plovdiv is a great success. The center of town, the pedestrian street that they have is I think, great. This is Shishman on Sofia Breathes. Again, why can't this just happen every week or every month? What does it cost? I think this actually stimulates as opposed to cost anything. And then this is an art shop, again, close to Shishman. What if our buildings were kind of funky and nice and painted and beautiful, like in Tirana? And then this is Superstar. What if, everywhere was kind of happy and bright? This is a police station in Japan. Imagine that the architecture of our public office could actually, be open and welcoming because they actually are supposed to serve us in society as opposed to being the other way around. And then this is a museum. It's supposed to represent culture. I think Ivan would be happier. I'm not saying that architecture is the solution to everything. Obviously, there's a lot to it, but architecture can really set us on the right path. Architecture can really speak to us, to push us, and to give us that kind of positivity. I think we need a strategy for the Paneoki. I think we need to preserve our beautiful historical buildings and not try to destroy them. We need to care about greenery, and we need to care about the detail. We need to care about beauty. I think this is really key. At the moment, nobody in Bulgaria cares about beauty. It's just about getting things done. We need to really think beautifully. And I'm an architect. At architecture school, we're taught design principles, history, and theory. We're always pushed to be the next Zaha Hadid, the next Frank Gehry. That's the kind of, we're pushed towards this amazing vision of architecture. The recession, though, has showed us that we don't need as many Guggenheims or whatever architecture building as we have architects. Not everyone can be Frank Gehry. Not everyone can build Guggenheims. Our ambitions need to move away from the iconic, from architecture. We need to stop building for them, and we need to start building for them. That's Ivan. So we need to build for the 99%. We need to build for us. This is a graph that just shows architecture and public interest design and the way that it's developed. The recession has really kind of pushed public interest design and kind of moved architecture's focus in that direction. There's even a TED initiative called City 2.0 that launched last year. So architecture for me is not just about designing, it's about building, creating, and doing. We need to make our visions come to life today and not in 30 years. We need to be happier today and not in 30 years. And that can start with simple changes or simple ideas. So what am I doing? As a student, my diploma thesis project was a Sofia Central train and bus station. I decided to create a new station that was, crazily abstract and so on in concept. But the concept was that at the moment there's a serious issue in that area with a lot of Roma kids, who don't have anywhere to live, kind of begging and so on in that area. So the idea was to create a central train station where we can try and celebrate that Roma culture, and we can try and bring those people into the station where they have proper places where they can, for example, work, or where they can play the accordion or whatever it is. So it's trying to formalize that. This was my proposal for the station. This was a couple of years ago. Today, professionally, I run openbuildings.com. Open Buildings is a Wikipedia for buildings. It has over 40,000 buildings, 150,000 registered users. So it's something that was founded a couple of years ago. Our ambition with Open Buildings is to try and inform people about good architecture. We recently also started a new project called clippings.com. Clippings is it's an online design magazine. It helps inspire people so that they can kind of understand where, the possibilities of where they can live, and to kind of try and help them to organize their design projects, whatever they may be, to kind of build better architecture. So we're trying to inspire them to build better architecture. All of this, by the way, is done here in Sofia. So these are all Bulgarian projects. Basically, we're using the internet to educate, inspire, and have people ask for more from their city planners, politicians, and designers. What can you do? If you're an architect, you need to build happy buildings, you need to create happy places, you need to care. You need to really put your energy and emotion into whatever you're doing. You need to care about context. You can't just throw away the context. If you're a city planner or public official, you need to care about beauty. You need to cultivate it and promote it. You need to run architectural competitions. You need to care about kind of the ideas and the quality of the ideas, as opposed to what the turnover of the architectural company was last year, or whether this is my cousin or brother or whatever it is. Everyone else, you need to learn about good architecture, and you really need to require it. This is really important, because if we don't require it from the people who can make it happen, it just won't happen. So we really need to require it. We need to take part in planning permissions and meetings and so on, and really kind of require that architecture is about beauty and goodness and kind of context. It's up to us. We need to act now. I think together we can make Bulgaria the happiest country in Europe. We've got beautiful nature. We've got rakia. We've got fresh food, great weather, a really rich history, sexy women, possibly men. What about sexy buildings? Thank you.